Good afternoon. So, in today's class, I'll be teaching us that. So, it's going to be like an introduction to that. Basically, all we'll be doing today will be classwork. I'll be giving us example on the board. I'll explain the general concepts of programming, the variables, the loop, the object-oriented programming, and everything we need to understand about programming. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the language we're working on is that. And when we are done with that, we'll go to Flutter. Flutter is a framework. I will explain to us what we mean by framework also as we go on in the class. But basically, we're starting with that. That is a new language. Now, most of the programming language that we'll be working on, that we'll be working with, like Python, C++, Java, they're like 90 something. I don't know the exact year they developed these languages, but that was developed by Google, and I think it was developed around 2013. So it's a new language. So I think it's a good language that you can learn because it's just evolving. And one advantage of that is this: you can use the framework Flutter and build mobile app. And the advantage of Flutter is this: there's something we call cross section. You can create a cross section mobile app. Since that on a before, when you want to create an Android app, you write the code Android. I assume you want to create an Android app and you want to create an iOS mobile app. You write the code for Android mobile app separately. You write the code for iOS mobile app separately. Do you understand? But now, if you want to write it on Flutter, you just need to write one code. So it can both work on iOS and on Android. So that's the advantage of Flutter. And before you can start writing code, before you can start building mobile app in Flutter, you need to understand that. So we're going to be starting with that today. Any question? Any question? So please, can I have the duster, please? The first thing first that we need to understand is this. As a programmer, when we say you are programming, what are you doing? When you say you are programming, you are giving a set of instruction to the computer. Okay, I want you to do this thing for me. You know, the thing we understand about computer is this: that computer cannot just do anything by itself. You need to give it a set of instruction, right? So as a programmer, just know that you are giving computer set of instruction that you want it to perform. And for you to give it a set of instruction for it to perform, you need to give it in a particular language that it understands. On your norms, you understand that computer understands 0, 1, right? That's binary. That's what we call, what kind of language is that? That's low level. Oh no, that's machine language, right? But there's something we call high level language. And these are examples of C++, Java. You understand it. So by the time you write it in your high level language, it will be changed to the machine language. The computer can do what you want it to do for you. Do we understand? Now, the normal thing computer understand is 0, 1, 0, 1. These are what we call machine language. Do you understand? But you and I, we don't know 0, 1, 0, 1. And we said something, say computer cannot just do anything by itself. You need to give it set of instruction. Okay, my computer, I want you to give me the location. Okay, I'm telling computer, okay, I want you to give me the location of item 7 in lorry. It doesn't understand your English. All it understands is your 0, 1, 0, 1, your binary number. That's your machine language. But we have high level language like this, like Python, your C++. the that we're going to be learning, and languages like that. These are when you write, okay, print so we need to understand how this code are being executed, so that by the time you are giving instruction to the computer, you know how it's going to execute it. Now we have compile. We did computer in our secondary school. Now we have compile language and we have interpret language. Now that is an example of compile language, in the sense that it executes your instruction line by line. So if you give it instruction that print hello world, it's going to execute the first line. When it's done executing the first line, then it's going to execute the second line. When it's done executing the second line, it's going to execute the third line. By the time we start practical, you understand what we are doing. Any questions so far? So that is going to execute no matter the instruction you're giving to it, it's going to execute it line by line. The first line, the second line, and the third line. So that's how your that work. Now assuming I have this set of instruction like print hello world, and I have another set of instruction, print my name is Victor. It's until after it has executed this line that it will now execute this second line. If I remove this, assuming I clean this thing and I put this code and I put it here, it's going to execute this one before it execute this one. So we need to understand this thing, that it executes your line, your code line by line. So let's move into that proper. Any question? Any question? So, while I was teaching you HTML, I told us the importance of we defining environment. So by the time I'm writing my code, I will know that I'm writing it in this particular language. If we want to work with HTML, I said we will first do what? We write doc type, right? HTML, right? Yes. We've defined that we are working on an HTML, right? We write the opening tag HTML, Abby, and we close. Then all our code will be inside. So also when you are writing that, you need to define the environment, and this is how we define our environment in that. Void main parentheses curly bracket, sorry. So all your code that you'll be writing will be inside this. Do we understand? So if I should write my code, and before you do this, another thing that is very important is this. I said you need to create a file, right? Yes. If I want to type my project, my final year project, I need to create a doc file, right? And my extension will be what? .doc, right? Now I want to create a file whereby what I'll be doing inside the file is that I need to create a file that has an extension .dat. So let's say my first page is going to be app.dat. Do we understand? Any question?
How do we create it? Just like the way we created
yes. Any question? Now remember, during our HTML class I said we use a text editor, right? And I gave us example of text editor that we use Atom. But when we are writing this kind of code, we don't use a text editor. We use an IDE. An example of IDE that we have is we have VS Code, we have PyCharm. I'm used to this too, because I also write code in Python, so I use PyCharm. But we'll be writing our DAT using VS Code, or we have online IDE like Repo. Instead of you to install a software in your system and do all those stuff, you can just go online, then you write your code there. You write it, you run it on their engine instead of you running it on your system. Do you understand? So maybe you have a system that maybe it's very slow, and you can just run it online. You understand? Do you understand? So you can use Repo.
The spelling for the words for the second one after VC.
PyCharm.
The VS Code and
PyCharm.
are they also kind of let me see, where we can write our codes?
Yes, for ID. For now we'll explain difference between text editor and ID.
Okay, the VS Code and PyCharm, are they on that like example of ID?
Yes. One example of our text editor is Atom, Sublime. You can use it to write a static code like our HTML, our CSS. But by the time we move to Java, okay, you can still write JavaScript on your Atom. By the time a part of JavaScript on Atom, but by the time we move to Python, we need it to display a console. Now, if you could remember, on our text editor, whenever we want to view whatever we've written, we open it on a browser. By the time we start writing code now, we can't open it on a browser. We need a place whereby we can view our code. The instruction, okay, I tell the computer, print hello world. You need to give me back an answer by printing an hello world. I need a console to see that. So it's an IDE that has a console that will give me back whatever the instruction. Like I asked my computer 3 plus 3. I need it to display answer by giving me 6. Okay. So we have something in the IDE called a console. So it's on this console that is going to display that. Console. Yes. We have it in our IDE. By the time we start working with our system, you will get to see more of these things. But in our text editor, we view whatever I want to do on the browser. You understand what I'm saying? So anytime, maybe after we create our HTML file, I want to view our, you're welcome to my website, all those kind of things. We need to view it on the browser, right? But on this time around, we can't view it on the browser. We need a console to display whatever instruction. Like, tell me what is your name. You need to give me back an answer, right? And how do you give me back the answer? You display it. Well, there are more to it. Well, the time we'll come to GUI, graphics user interface. Basically, what is going to be giving us right now is just a basic response to whatever we are saying. But by the time we get to GUI, then we can view it on advanced level. Do we understand? So this is just a basic difference between an IDE and your text editor. You can write your Python, you can write it on your text editor, but you need an IDE. An example of IDE is VS Code, PyCharm, and Repo. So, but this Repo is an online platform whereby you can write your code online. Any question so far? Any question? Okay. Let's move on. We're going to be writing in that. Now, when we get to function, I will explain to us what this means. When we get to function, I will explain to us what this means. So, now the basic thing you need to understand in this is this: when you're writing your DAT, that whenever you're writing any instruction, you need to end it with a semicolon. Whenever you write any instruction, you need to always end it with what? Semicolon. It's important. If you don't end it with a semicolon, your computer is going to yell at you and say that you've written nonsense. Unlike in Python, you don't need a semicolon. This is part of the basic difference that you need to understand. So now let's write our first code. Let's write our first line of code. The first thing we understand now, whenever you're writing any program language, is hello world. So now let's write hello world. Now to write hello world, print open bracket hello world, then your parenthesis, your semicolon. Now before I move forward, one thing, now you just see print. How many of us have ever seen any programming language? You see this thing. How many of us have come across print before? We've all come across print before.
Yes.
Have you ever wondered why is it that it is print they used to use? Now it's just like this. There's something we call function in programming. Now let me explain function to us, although we are not going into function deep. Function are set of codes that has been written somewhere. Now wherever you need them, you call them. When you call them, they perform that function you want it to do for you. Now let me come again. We all have our TV, right? We have our TV and we have a remote control. Now but anytime I press AV, what happened to the TV? It will change to AV, right? Functions are just like those buttons. When you press them, you are calling it to perform that function.